Good morning, students. I hope all of you are safe. In the previous lesson, we have studied about the environment. In that, we have mainly discussed with the biotic components. So, in the today's lesson, we will study about the interaction among biotic components as well as the abiotic components. So, let's begin the lesson. Interaction among biotic components. We know that plants and animals depend on each other for various needs. Animals mainly depend on plants for food and shelter. Animals in turn help plants by pollinating flowers, dispersing seeds, etc. In nature, this relationship has been observed among plants, animals, scavengers and decomposers, and now we will study how they have interacted with each other. First, plants are called producers because they carry out the process of photosynthesis. Plants utilize the sun's energy and manufacture their own food. So they are known as producers. If we talk about the herbivores, then they are called the primary consumers, such as rabbit and deer that feed on plants. Why they are called primary consumers? Because they mainly depend on the plants or almost depend on the plants for their survivors. Now there is another one category of animals that are carnivores, that are also called secondary consumers, such as lion, tiger. They feed on the herbivores, means they feed on the primary consumers that depend on the plant. So we can say carnivores directly depend on the herbivores but indirectly depend on the plants for their survival. Now the another category of the animal is the omnivores. Omnivores are also called as the secondary consumers, such as human beings, bear. These are known as the omnivores that feed on both herbivores and carnivores. Means they feed on plants as well as flesh of other animals. So if they are feeding on the plants, they are called herbivores, and they are eating the flesh of other animals, so they are known as carnivores. For example, as I have told you earlier, that is the human being, we itself, as well as bear. Now we also introduced the scavengers and decomposers as the biotic components. So we have told you earlier that scavengers and decomposers feed on dead plants and animals, that is organisms, and release the nutrients trapped inside their bodies into the soil. These nutrients are then absorbed by plants, which help them to grow and manufacture their food. So in this way, these biotic components interact with each other. Now here in this diagram, it is well depicted how the biotic components are interrelated with each other. You can see here that the producer is there. Then these are being eaten by the primary consumer. Here is being sown by the grasshopper. Then it is being consumed by the secondary consumer, that is a rat, that is a carnivore. The rat is consumed by the tertiary consumer, that is a snake, and then the quaternary consumer, that is a vulture. Yes, here the secondary, tertiary, quaternary consumer has also been categorized, but these are coming under the omnivores. Clear? So these are the omnivores that are eating the flesh of the, that is the carnivore. Plants are the omnivores, and these all quaternary, tertiary, secondary, primary, as well as producer, these all are being decomposed by detrivores, that is a decomposer. These decomposers are what? As you can see in the picture, there is a mushroom, that is one kind of the fungi. Bacteria and fungi are the decomposers. So, and again these nutrients are returned back by the producer. So consumers are organisms that need to eat food to obtain their energy. Now we are dealing here with the abiotic components. Abiotic means what? Abiotic factors are non-living factors that impact on an ecosystem. Abiotic factors are part of the ecosystem and can impact the associated living things, but they are not living. They are impacting. They are affecting the biotic components itself. They are not living. As we have dealt earlier, that the term abiotic comes from the root parts meaning without, and bio meaning life. So the word abiotic means non-living. Light, air, water, soil, temperature, these are the examples of abiotic components of the environment. Even though these components are themselves non-living, but they have an effect on living organism, that is the biotic components of the environment. As you can see in the picture, these are what? These are the different examples of the abiotic components, that is the sunlight, wind, rain, water, soil, and also there are several others. So first we will deal here with the first abiotic component, that is the light. We know plants use light to prepare their food. The growth of plants and flowering are also dependent on the availability and duration of the exposure to light. For example, kharif crops such as maize and cotton flourish in summer when their length or exposure to light is more. So in this way, the plants depend mostly on the light. As we have discussed here, light energy from the sun derives photosynthesis, we have discussed, and a process used by bacteria, algae and plants to convert carbon dioxide into the cellular energy, that is through the process of photosynthesis. The Earth's climate is heavily driven by the uneven distribution of light across the Earth's surface. As we have seen that when there is uneven distribution of light across the Earth's surface, so wherever the light is there, that portion is considered as a daylight, and where the light is not available, that is the night light part. So uneven distribution of light across the Earth's surface is also being driven by the Earth's climate. Now the next one is the temperature. Temperature is what? Temperature is a measure that tells us how hot or cold something is. As you can see that extraordinary adaptations enable certain species to live at extreme temperature. Some species of prokaryotes, for example, you can see the archaeobacteria or the hot springs bacteria, that can thrive in hot springs at as hot as 80 degrees Celsius and can live around deep sea vents which are even hotter. Means these are the different temperature range where some organisms can survive. Okay, the Earth is also one known planet that has a temperature suitable for life to exist. Even on the Earth, the temperature is not uniform all around. It is very hot near the equator, whereas places near the poles are very cold. So temperature affects the distribution of plants and animals around the planet. Clear? Okay. Now, temperature, we know, we have discussed here that the temperature is what? It is a measure that tells us how hot or cold something is. Clear? So we will discuss with the I have told you that temperature affects the distribution of plants and animals around the planet. So on the basis of that, the animals have been divided into two parts, that is the warm-blooded animals and the cold-blooded animals. So what are cold-blooded animals? So cold-blooded animals can be defined as the animals which cannot regulate their internal body temperature with a change in the environment. Means animals whose body temperatures changes with the outside temperature are called cold-blooded animals. They cannot survive in extreme temperature conditions though, so they just hibernate themselves. For example, cold-blooded animals are reptiles, fish, insects, amphibians. So what are these? These are cold-blooded animals. Warm-blooded animals? Warm-blooded animals are defined as the animals which can regulate and maintain constant internal body temperature. What does it mean? Animals whose body temperature does not change with the outside temperature are called warm-blooded animals. They can survive in any temperature range as they can adapt to it easily. So one disadvantage with the cold-blooded animals was that they cannot adapt to the change in the temperature. Examples are the mammals, or you can see that most mammals, birds, they are the warm-blooded animals. Warm-blooded animals can survive in areas such as desert Arctic region, we're having the extreme temperatures, but there cold-blooded animals would have difficulty in surviving. Clear? Okay, so here in this slide I'm just going to show you some of the examples of the cold-blooded and the warm-blooded animals. As you can see here, in the cold-blooded animals, alligator, frog, crocodile, lizard, fish, snake, these are cold-blooded animals that are not able to change their body temperature with the change in the environment, so they hibernate themselves in the extreme temperature condition. But if you are talking about the warm-blooded animals such as elephant, dog, whale, eagle, cat, humans, means most of the mammals and birds, those are warm-blooded animals. They do not need to change their body temperature. They are able to maintain their internal body temperature with the changes in the environment, so they can adapt themselves. They do not hibernate, but they can adapt themselves. Okay, so thank you.